Really bizarre story just happened here in my state of Tennessee. A Tennessee couple just made history by welcoming in their new twins. These twins are biologically not theirs, biologically adopted, but they weren't adopted in the normal way. They were adopted as frozen embryos that were conceived in 1992. So these babies were conceived in 1992, put in a freezer for 30 years, and then this couple in Tennessee adopted the embryos and gave birth to them. They are both, these little children are the couple's youngest kids and oldest kids. These little babies are about as old as I am, actually, even though they're little babies, and the whole thing is really, really strange. The main takeaway here, I think, people are going to be debating the bioethics of embryo adoption. And I don't really know exactly what to think of embryo adoption. In a way, it seems quite wrong because you're separating the procreative act from the conjugal act. Although it's not, obviously it was not the couple that did this, but the couple is involved in the implantation. And so that seems to me bioethically dubious. But on the other hand, you've got these frozen people that are just frozen in perpetuity. And then a couple comes in and says, we're going to actually allow you guys to have life and not just leave you frozen in perpetuity. That seems like a wonderful thing. And so everyone's going to be focused on the bioethics of, is embryo adoption okay? Is it not okay? Are there questions about it? Whatever. To me, that's a secondary point. I don't have an answer on that point yet, though I am somewhat cautious about it. The real takeaway here, I think, is that IVF is just absolutely awful. It's just absolutely unacceptable. I know a lot of people have used IVF. I know a lot of people have been tricked into using IVF, and I know a lot of people are grateful to IVF because their children who are walking around today exist because of IVF. And so I'm not asking you to, regret your children or something like that. Obviously, the kids are a good end, and sometimes people engage in these things unwittingly and out of desperation and out of ignorance. But good ends don't justify immoral means, and I think the more we look into IVF, it's so clear this is immoral. Just look at those two little kids. Those little kids are real kids. They're real people. And they've been real people for 30 years in this frozen stasis in a freezer, okay? And there are lots and lots and lots of people like this. And that is the result. It is frankly the inevitable result of a regime that tolerates in vitro fertilization. And so if those two little kids are real people, then all those embryos and all those freezers are real people too. And for every two little kids that get born and adopted 30 years later, think of all the people, think of all the souls that are in those freezers. That is just unacceptable. And no desire to resolve infertility, which often, though not in all cases, but often can be resolved in other ways that are not so bioethically compromised. But that is not it. Those are real kids, okay? If you doubted before that the souls on ice were real people, those are real kids. And so it's gotta lead us back to thinking, okay, why were these kids allowed to be in a freezer for 30 years to begin with? And should we really allow that to persist? I don't think so. Right now, head on over to Genucel.com/Knowles. What if I told you that you could make those fine lines, forehead wrinkles, dark spots, even under eye bags disappear? Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, it's not when you make Genucel skincare a part of your daily routine. Genucel has sold over 1 million products to both men and women, and the reviews speak for themselves. Samantha writes, quote, "I love Genucel skincare. I've used it all over my face, under my eyes, and it cleared up the dry flakiness and even reduced my forehead lines." Someone even asked if I had had work done. Genucel uses a proprietary base with clinical levels of botanical extracts, which come together to yield amazing results. Genucel products are natural, cruelty-free, and made in the USA. Take advantage of Genucel's early Black Friday sale going on right now. You can get their most popular products package for over 70% off. You'll get 2 months worth of their best sellers, plus their hyaluronic acid serum free with your purchase. Take advantage of this amazing deal now by going to Genucel.com/Knowles and use code Knowles for an extra 10% off. That is Genucel.com/Knowles, Genucel.com/Knowles. Speaking of new people in our country, there is a bill up that not a lot of people are talking about because I think that the liberal establishment and the squish Republicans would rather just get this thing passed in the dead of night and not have anybody talk about it. But it's a big problem. It's called the Eagle Act. The Eagle Act is a green card giveaway for Democrats and Fortune 500 CEOs. This is being peddled by the Democrats, but 8 Republicans have co-sponsored the bill. This includes Representative Tom Emmer, who unfortunately, accidentally, because one guy voted incorrectly, mistakenly, became the whip for the Republicans, beating out Jim Banks, who's actually a conservative. But you got 8 Republicans co-sponsoring this bill, and what it does is it supercharges citizenship incentives for Indians and Chinese nationals to take Fortune 500 white-collar careers over Americans who have gone to college, who have probably taken out a lot of debt, maybe $250,000, maybe more than $250,000 in debt. Now, immigrants are going to get a faster track to that. And who wins? Democrats win because immigrants are much more likely to vote for Democrats. I know, the Republicans always say, well, the immigrants, they're Republicans, they just don't know it yet. Yeah, maybe. We're still waiting on that. That still hasn't really quite happened. In certain small localities, sometimes immigrants break a little bit for Republicans, and usually that's just with the help of the Cubans, who happen to be extremely conservative. But generally speaking, no, the immigrants vote for Democrats. And so it's a big win for the Democrats electorally. It's a big win for the big corporations and for the Chamber of Commerce that doesn't care about anything really other than just boosting its profit margins a little bit. But it's a big loss for the country, okay? The country has a responsibility. Politicians have a responsibility to prioritize the citizens of the country. They have a responsibility to prioritize their constituents over foreigners, over very wealthy, influential CEOs, over all sorts of other vested interests, okay? Over the Democrats trying to rig the elections. They have a responsibility to Americans, okay? A country is about more than just GDP. A country is about more than just quarterly profits from a handful of corporations. A country is about more than just an idea, meaning that the country is really just an idea floating around the whole globe. No, a country is a real place with real people, with real borders, with real geography, with real traditions, with a real way of life, okay? And it shows you how tough this issue is, because even the Republicans totally squish on immigration. The vast majority of Americans want to drastically reduce all immigration, legal and illegal, because it's just insanely high. 3 million people a year is just crazy. It's the largest movement of human beings ever in recorded history over the last 60 years into the United States. And so the problem is the Democrats want much, much more of it because it gives them an advantage. And the Republicans also kind of want more of it because their donors demand it. And so what you're left with is the toughest immigration position that we get, even from the most hardline immigration hawks at the real top level of politics, is illegal bad, legal good. Illegal immigration's bad, but legal immigration is good. So what do? They just change the law to flood the country with legal immigrants. But the effect of disruption, of problems of assimilation, of suppressing wages, of taking jobs, it's all the same. Right? You get the exact same issue there. And so what are we going to do about it? It just shows you when even a Republican, when even a conservative wants to go in and fight the system, he's got to fight a lot more than just Joe Biden and some Democrats. He's got to fight the whole system. All right, the rest of the show continues now. We have a very good friend of mine coming on the show today to talk about a new documentary and one of the biggest political issues in America, where probably some of the most important political fights are taking place. That would be at the schools. The rest of the show continues now. If you are not a member, click the link in the description and join us.